Welcome, parents. Today, we're going to talk about your child's physical safety. Physical safety, it's so important. Don't miss this Q&A live video. I'll be giving you the 8 must-have lessons that you need to do with your child today, whether you have an 8-year-old or an 18-year-old, it doesn't matter. Hi, my name is Christina. I'm founder of The Impactful Parent, and I come on here every week to answer one of your questions live. If you have a question for me for next week, then you can direct message me on social media, or you can email me at theimpactfulparent@gmail.com. And all submissions are always kept anonymous. All right, let's talk about our question today, which is somebody wrote in and asked, how do I keep my teenage girl safe now that she is an independent young person doing her own thing? Now, it was kind of a broad question, so I broke it down. And I know that letting your teen become more independent is super scary. And the best way to combat your fears and keep your child safe at the same time is to teach them how to stay safe. So today's video is actually for all ages of children. Even though the question today was about a teenager, this will be applicable to your very young child. It will be applicable to your adolescent. So today I'm going to give you the 8 most important safety lessons that you need to teach your child. And yes, teach them at any age. You should practice and talk about these safety tips at least once a year, kind of like a fire drill, because repeating this conversation once a year is super impactful. That is how you're going to allow your child to grow with the lesson. They'll start to understand it in new ways as they grow. The lessons will become ingrained into their brain, and the more or less times that the lessons are revisited, your chances will increase that your child will do the right thing if presented in a situation where they need to call on these skills. So let's get to the lessons right now. Lesson number 1, teach your child to be aware of their surroundings. Now, I know this sounds like a no-brainer, but now more than ever, our kids are distracted from the world because they stare at a screen. They walk around like this, right? We've all seen it. We probably do it to us parents. Parents, we need to teach our children to put down the phone, and more often than at the dinner table and when they're driving. I feel like parents actually do a pretty good job of telling their teens, hey, put down the phone when you're driving. But many forget to teach their children to put down the phone when they walk. Walking with your head looking down and distracted by this screen makes your child an easy target for profiling, mugging, kidnapping, and all other offenses. So teach your child to walk with their head up. Walk with confidence. Walk with direction. When you walk with purpose and are aware of your surroundings, you minimize the appeal to be threatened. Plus, don't just talk about walking with purpose and the phone to be put away, but also have your child physically practice it, because muscle memory is sometimes what people need to rely on when they are in an unfamiliar situation that can be very scary and very tense. They have to rely on the muscle memory instead because their logical brain isn't thinking very well. So with all the lessons I'm giving you today, try to role play them so that they become a muscle memory thing repeated over and over. And this is hands down the most effective way to teach your child these lessons. They will remember them better, and they'll be able to call on them much easier. For me, for lesson 1, I actually make this a game with my kids. I will go to the park sometimes and have them close their eyes and then tell me what is around them. What do they remember seeing around them? Were they aware that there was somebody walking their dog, that there's somebody over there playing at the park, or somebody right behind them? Practice being observant of your surroundings. It makes a big difference. Let's go to lesson 2. Lesson 2 is teach your child to move out of reach. I highly suggest putting your children into some sort of martial art or self-defense class if possible. However, let's get real, it's not a reality for most of us. So if you can't enroll your child in that kind of extracurricular activity, then the very least thing I'm asking you to do is teach your child how to move out of reach of someone trying to grab them. Whether you're role-playing this aggressive boyfriend or girlfriend, or a perpetrator trying to give your child candy, or maybe even just playing that good old slap hand game that a lot of families used to play back in the day when we didn't have much. We're used to put your hands on top of somebody else's hands and then try to hit them. Whatever you do, you can make it a game, but role play it. Teach your child how to move away from people. And more than with just their upper body, show them how to step away also or run if needed. Which brings me to lesson 3, which is teaching your child to stay out of reach. Just like lesson 2, kids need to practice staying out of reach. We teach our child to move intentionally and with confidence. So here you go again, role playing that kidnapper or role playing that pushy boyfriend or girlfriend that won't take no for an answer. But when you practice continuously moving away, it also will help keep them away. So start keeping them away. So not just moving away, but keeping them away. And I guess people keep trying to get nearer and nearer. Don't just learn how to do it once, learn how to keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. And lesson 4. Lesson 4 is to teach your child to say no and stop. Have your practice hold their ground. I know we don't like to teach our kids to say no and stop because we don't want it for them to use that language on us. But in reality, they need to know how to say no and stop with conviction. And if they're not used to doing it, it's harder to do in a bad situation. So have them practice saying no and then moving away. Teach your child how to remove someone's hand off of their body and step away. And then reminder that lesson 4 is more than just learning how to say no and stop. But it also includes teaching your child the body language they need to accompany the words, because no one's going to listen to your child if they only learn how to say no quietly or weakly. Kids need to practice standing tall, standing confident, saying no with conviction, and to make eye contact with their perpetrator. Which brings me to lesson 5. Lesson 5 is teach your child how to set boundaries for their physical and their mental well-being. This is probably one of the hardest ones to teach because I feel like as parents, we don't do this for ourselves. We don't know how to set boundaries on our mental well-being from time to time. I know, even speaking from experience, I will overextend myself and say yes to things I don't really want to do for other people because I want to help them out or I feel obligated. But it's important to teach your child that boundaries are important. We can't be happy when we spread ourselves too thin, when we're trying to please everybody, when we're worried about what other people are thinking about us. So with your younger kids, practice saying, please stop. And practice that, saying it to not only their peers, but also to adults. Have kids practice holding their boundaries when someone is insisting and won't take no for an answer. And again, this is all best done in role play situation. Teach your child how to turn down invitations politely, but with assertion. And then for older kids, practice saying, stop or I will leave with conviction. And if you do this from an early age, it will be that much more ingrained when they become teenagers and they really need it. So praise your child for setting boundaries on their physical space and their mental well-being. Now, lesson 6. Lesson 6 is teach your child to always announce where they are and to get permission before they change their plan about going anywhere else with anyone. Even when my children were little and left the room, I had them get into the habit of always telling me where they were. Yeah, it's a little weird to announce if you're leaving the room to go to the bathroom, but in my household, that is what we do because we always tell someone where we are. So as young children, I made it a habit to announce the whereabouts of wherever we're at. Every person in the home had to announce them. But the nice thing about that is because I started so young, when my teenagers grew, it felt weird to them to hide their plans from me. So even if you have an older child, it's never too late. Continue to teach them how to announce where they are and always check in before changing their plans. Lesson number 7, teach your child to always have a plan B. For younger children, this is going to be a discussion with you, the parent. What will you do if you get lost? What will you do if you're waiting for me and I'm showing up late? What will you do if you don't make the team? Teaching your child to have a plan B is reassuring to the child, and it actually creates security. It shows them that things don't always work out the way we wanted, but that's okay because we have a plan B. I find that children who have plan Bs are more confident and less traumatized when things don't go as planned. Now, for teenagers, plan B is even more important. So teach your child to have a plan B every time they leave the house, every time they go to a party, every time they feel peer pressure, and always create a safe way out when they find themselves in a bad situation. And the last one, lesson 8. Teach your child to fight, scream, kick, go crazy if someone is threatening them. This is a big one because we tell kids all the time, shh, don't be loud. Ooh, be quiet. They're being too loud. And yet we need to teach them that there is a time and a place to be really loud. Most kids get suppressed by adults who are up to no good, these adults up to no good, because the adult says things like, if you tell anyone, I'm going to hurt you, or I'm going to hurt somebody in your family. And then the kids suppress all these bad things that are happening to them because they're afraid of the threats. So it's very, very sad, but we need to teach our kids to yell and scream and fight and tell the trusted adult. It doesn't matter what kind of threat your child might receive, even if it's from a peer. Peers will also say things like, if you don't do this, the next time it's going to be worse. Like if you have dealing with a bully at school. It really doesn't matter what the threat is. The response you want to teach your child is be loud, be direct, find a trusted adult and tell them, make a commotion, because the commotion is the right course of action in order for the problem not to get worse. Do not hide and give the perpetrator or bully more power. By hiding, that's what you're doing. So it's very, very tough lesson, but I highly encourage parents to try to teach this to their children. It's scary for any child to be threatened, but the threats are worse when the child doesn't know what to do and feels helpless to help themselves. So teach your child to take their power back by making a commotion, which, by the way, if your child is ever trying to avoid an abduction of any kind, statistics say that the louder, the kicking, the screaming that they make initially right away will most likely save them and scare their perpetrator away versus being quiet. So super important lesson. I hope you understand all 8 lessons that I'm trying to send this message out to today so that you can keep your children safe. And if you have a question for me for next week, please submit it. I would love to hear it. Direct message me on social media. Email me at theimpactfulparent@gmail.com. And until next time, you got this, parents. I'm just here to help.